for around 12 years has to be, like, why is it that we're still so concerned with placing it as a required subject? Therefore, I believe that the priorities of the tertiary education system are far different from the priorities of DepEd. I mean, if the concern of the state, or if the concern of the citizenry is simple, and that is to promote the proficiency of us Filipinos using the Filipino language, then the solution is not to require Filipino as a required subject in college, but to enforce the basic teaching of Filipino in the PE or in the K-12 curriculum. Because we believe that Filipino as a required subject in college already takes up the slots of other subjects that could be specifically targeted to a student. That is to say, if I'm a foreign studies student, then I should study like some other languages. We are not, in government's case, we are not undermining the importance of the Filipino language. What we are saying is that when you put a language that is supposed to be taught in your first 12 years in school as a mandatory subject in the tertiary level education, just because it then undermines the importance of teaching this subject in the first 12 years. Take for Japan, for example. I mean, I'm learning Japanese, and I know that when you're high school, you're expected to learn at least 8,000 kanji characters. That is because the curriculum in these types of countries are very, very strengthened when it comes to teaching Filipino or their own national language in basic education, like elementary and secondary. Therefore, interpolation.
The speaker is now open for interpolation.
Alright, so you disagree that the Filipinos should not be required in college?
Yeah.
And you say that we should not manufacture nationalism.
True.
However, according to Article 2, Section 13, which means we recognize the role of the youth in nation building.
Is that Constitution? Constitution. Alright.
It says that we also have to foster nationalism and patriotism in our youth. If we are to remove Filipino subject in college, are we not violating the Constitution by actually not giving a chance to have a deeper understanding and appreciation of our language, and not only our language, but our panitikan?
Is that a concession that the Filipino language becomes the vessel of nationalism? That is a concession that the Filipino language becomes the only vessel of nationalism, right?
No, that is not a concession.
Therefore, my answer is no. Next.
Alright. Anyways. Now, since the Filipino language should be removed, and we should focus on
not removed,
not removed,
not required,
not required. Sorry, not required. Got me there. What other things should we do? Should tertiary education do in place of removing such or not requiring such subjects?
I think I already said it in my speech if you were listening. It's not anymore the burden of the tertiary education, but the burden of DepEd, like in junior and in senior years or elementary. So I don't think it's a burden of CHED anymore.
So you are telling me CHED does not have to do anything to let's say to compensate for the loss of the requirement of the subject.
See, a burden is different from not doing anything. When you put a burden, you have to do it. What I'm saying is, CHED can create measures, but it's not anymore their primary role to require the subject. There's a difference.
Okay. Now, I would just like to clarify this. You say there will be no longer discussions of language and there will no longer be a repetition? Or did I misheard that?
There may be, or there may be not. You know, there are still Filipino majors that take Filipino languages. But, you know, if you're like a diplomatic studies major, like what I'm going to take, you don't have to be required to take Filipino. And that's my argumentation. Meaning, if I choose to take Filipino as a subject, I have the choice to, or I do not have the choice to. Because under my model, we already proved that in your first 12 years of education, you're already expected to be proficient in such language that in your tertiary education years, you're not anymore burdened to, you know, like, take panghalip panao, for example. That's the difference.
Okay. Now, should we Actually, no. I had a wrong wording. Do you think that Filipinos have enough understanding and knowledge of the language and appreciation of not only that, but our, can I say Filipino? It's Panitikan or literature. If we are to not require it in subject,
yeah. The thing is, they do not have an understanding of this language, not because it's not being taught in college, but question yourself. You said that they do not already have an understanding of the Filipino language. They're being taught 4 years of Filipino in college and 12 years of Filipino right now. And in that 12 years of Filipino, like I'm grade 12 and I don't even understand the differences of Inclitics, for example. I do not think that it is the burden of the tertiary education to fulfill the gaps in the K-12 curriculum about language. Now, the reason why Filipinos are not proficient in their language is because kahit bata pa sila, even if they are already kids, they're not being taught the language well. They're being taught the hard parts of the language before they even get to understand the language. Next question. 30 seconds. Go.
Alright, so what do you think that should do in order to alleviate the problem?
I mean, teach it like Chinese, for example. Look at China. You know, when you're kindergarten, you're being taught the most complex characters that you know. I'm a level 5 Japanese learner and that's like the most basic, but I am already expected to memorize 3,000 characters. Here in the Philippines, you're already grade 12, but your larang subject is just discussing panghalipa. I think there is a problem in the curriculum that has to be fixed before we put the burden to the tertiary education. Last question.
Alright, so how much time pa po?
Okay.
Thank you.
Time is up.
While in any economic state, inflation is unavoidable, too much inflation will indeed affect the lives of the people negatively. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why this representation believes that inflation over inflation is bad. In the past 10 months, we have reached an inflation ranging from 4.6 to 6.4%. This is according to the PSA. And that means that there is an unfair, or let's say, an increased rising in prices of prime commodities. Like, for example, rice and among others. Now, in all of this means that there is already an overinflation in the Philippines, since we can't even mitigate, or let's say answer the problem that we are having in our prime commodities right now. That means that overinflation is not a necessary thing to happen in any country. Now, the peso has reached a 12-year low against the dollar. It has now reached about 50 pesos. And now, this negatively affects especially the poorest of the poor. When we say the poorest of the poor, that means the lowest 61% of people below the poverty line. And why are they affected negatively? These people, most of the time, are not exactly immediately feeling any programs or any financial aids that the government is doing right now. And that means they will have even harder time to supply for their basic needs, for their everyday resources, because of this overinflation. Another thing as to why overinflation is not beneficial to any society is that it sacrifices production for the price. We know that when something becomes more expensive, the supply and demand may be affected. Now, this affects the workforce and the labor production of the Philippines negatively, as inflation also increases the cost of how much we can buy the raw materials to obtain it from. Now, from a practical standpoint, instead of just plainly addressing the problem of inflation, we should answer inflation as a problem that we must solve as a society. The government should focus on on making programs that are meant to increase the workforce and the strength of the populace without sacrificing the prices of our resources. Another thing that we could do is to help these people, to help the poorest of the poor by strengthening government programs like the 4Ps in order to give them much more, in order to equalize the increasing hike in inflation with increasing subsidies, therefore. Now, in all of this, while we do say that inflation is a normal part of any country, overinflation is, of course, bad. That's all. Thank you.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Okay, so you have said that overinflation is bad. And do you agree with me that inflation was caused by the trade law?
And above?
Do you agree with me that the overinflation is caused by the trade law?
Now, no.
Do you agree that the overinflation is the cause of failure? So why?
So what? While I agree that while I know that the trade law is meant to increase the, let's say, to put it simply, the salaries of middle level earners, it doesn't exactly have any conclusive effect on inflation, as there are other factors in the government that could affect inflation. Say, for example, from earlier topics, the rice demand in the Philippines, and that may, of course, negatively affect. Another thing is, of course, our president's expletives and how he deals with international relations. That may affect economy negatively by throwing away investors. So.
But basically, the issue of inflation just arose after the trade law was approved to be a law.
No. The Philippines has had inflation of 6.4 above percent. Not now, but in previous years, let's say the past 20 years, we have had in glorious time, in Arroyo's time, we had a surge in inflation, and that's not caused by trade law, but rather by other external factors that the government and the people have contributed for.
Oh, thank you for that. Now, you have said a while ago that overinflation is bad because it affects the poorest of the poor, while the government is not enacting any program to alleviate such inflation. Now, are you aware of 4Ps? Are you aware of the Pantawid Pasada program?
Oh yes, I'm aware of that. I am aware of that.
Okay, so why did you say that the government is not enacting any program?
No. I'm not saying that the government is not enacting any program.
You have said it a while ago.
I have said. Alright, I'm sorry. Now let me clarify myself on that topic. The government has indeed, in terms of practicality, I have given 4Ps, right? If you were listening, so I just bounced back what I said a while ago. So, while it is true that the government is doing something, it's not exactly enough for the poorest of the poor. We are not going with the times. So remember, inflation is a very sensitive graph. It changes almost every month, weekly. And if the government, yes, the government has enacted a program, but it is not doing so in a much more dynamic and integrated way, that it will always, or let's say more efficiently, follow the tracks of the poor and how much they actually need.
No further questions, sir.
The table is open for the interpellation of other counsel.
Are you aware of the overinflation that's happening right now in Venezuela because of Maduro's rule?
Yes,
are you aware of the overinflation that is happening in Venezuela right now because of Maduro's rule?
No, enlighten me.
Alright. Right now, the cost of one hot dog in Venezuela is around 1,300,000 pesos.
So in Venezuela country?
Yeah. It's not Venezuela, the country. Now, my question is, what is 6.4% overinflation already?
Now, while it is true that if you want to compare it to Venezuela, it is minute, in the context of the Philippines, it is. For many years, we have maintained our inflation to be below 4, to be within the 3-4% range, and only has it been now, in the past 20 years, has it had a surge. Now, what I'm saying is that while you say that Venezuela has indeed one of the biggest inflation rates in the world, in the context of the Philippines, overinflation means that there's a surge in inflation that goes well beyond the capabilities of the masses to let's say purchase and or but not limited to obtain such resources.
Are you willing? What is then your policy to combat inflation if you were to be government?
Of course.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, to our adjudicators, to my co-debaters. I humbly submit that the voiding of amnesty to Trillanes is legal. First, my argument. The Constitution provides that the grant of amnesty must be given to those who plead guilty to the cases where they have been accused. And on the case accused to Trillanes, he did not plead guilty. On my second argument, the process of granting of amnesty to Trillanes did not undergo the due process. On the letter that provided the amnesty to Trillanes, the President was not the one who signed the amnesty. Rather, it is the one who signed the amnesty is the one who recommended Trillanes for the amnesty. So, that necessarily means that the amnesty of Trillanes before is not valid. Therefore, the avoiding of amnesty to Trillanes is legal.
The speaker is now open for interpolation.
So, good morning, debater number 5. Here is my only one question for you. Is it written in the Constitution that the successor president can revoke and can take off or can nullify the prior decision of the previous president? Is it written in the Constitution?
It basically not, but the Legislative Committee has the right to amend or make some provisions on the amnesty given to those who are given the amnesty. Let's say the amnesty I have said a while ago that the amnesty given to Trillanes is not constitutional and did not undergo the due process of granting the amnesty. Therefore, that can be nullified.
Then why it is already given by President Benigno Aquino in the first place? It is already given, and so therefore the previous president that has given it, and then the successor has no right to nullify it. It is already written. It is written in the Constitution now that the successor has no power. Therefore, the nullifying or the voiding of the Trillanes amnesty itself is unconstitutional.
No, because the process of granting amnesty to Trillanes has not been constitutional. So therefore, that amnesty to Trillanes should be nullified by the Legislative Committee and the Constitution.
What evidence do you have that it is unconstitutional? What evidence do you have that it is unconstitutional?
I have read the letter or provisions, but I really, at this moment, I did not really recite. But it really states that the process of granting amnesty is not constitutional because first and foremost, it was not signed by the president, and the president is the only one who can grant amnesty, right?
So, if it is not really signed by the president, why did President Benigno Aquino revoke it in the first place?
That's why it is unconstitutional, as I was saying.
So here is the argument. If it is unconstitutional, then the previous president has already revoked it. So here, the process itself of voiding is unconstitutional, and then the previous is unconstitutional. Therefore, you are saying that the previous is unconstitutional, but if already it is already given by the president himself, the previous president, then the successor has no right to revoke it, has no right to void it. And then if it is really not went to the due process of the law, then why did the previous president didn't check upon it? If it is really against the due process of the law, if it didn't really underwent to the due process of the law, why didn't the previous president check upon it? Why didn't they revoke it? Why didn't they become vocal about it? So what you are now saying is just pure speculations. You cannot present even a concrete evidence, a concrete information on that the argument is really that can support your argument that it is unrevocable. Therefore, I will maintain the stand that giving Trillanes the amnesty is constitutional, and it was given by the previous president. It was given by the previous president, and therefore the successor, which is President Rodrigo Duterte, has no power to void it.
But the Constitution says that there can be provisions, there can be amendments. So the process is unconstitutional, then we can amend or make some provisions for that.
So you are talking about the conditions, the conditions of amnesty. What I believe is written in the Constitution is the one who has conditions is not amnesty but pardon. There is a great difference between pardon and amnesty. Amnesty is total forgiveness, and pardon is forgiveness with the prior provisions. But the one given to Trillanes is amnesty and not pardon.
Amnesty has been part of the coup d'etat, right?
Yes.
But Trillanes did not plead guilty to the cases he was accused, right?
If he didn't plead guilty, then why in the first place he was given the amnesty?
Then that was the question: why the president why was the president revoked the amnesty to Trillanes?
Therefore, it was given because he is worthy of the amnesty itself. If he didn't really comply to the prior commitment, to the prior provisions. Time's up. Next, we have, morning, ladies and gentlemen. The topic that's given to me is train law a gain or a pain? I believe that train law is rather more of a gain than a pain. Economic experts, especially specifically from the University of the Philippines, claim that train law will give more opportunities for the next 10 years for our country. It is not only the sole cause of the inflation rate that is happening right now. Therefore, I believe that it would give more opportunities to the country itself, specifically in the process of the Duterte program, build. The more taxes that we will collect, the more from the tax reform acceleration law will give us more opportunity in the next 10 years, and for our country will experience more of its benefits. Therefore, it is a gain for the future. So I am now open for interpellation.
The speaker is now open for interpellation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So you have said a while ago about the Build program as one of the opportunities of train law. Can you please cite other examples of opportunities of why train law is a gain rather than a pain?
Because it will open more to job opportunities. For the next 10 years, economic experts that are consulted by President Duterte and the administration itself, that 10,000 more jobs will be more, 10 millions and 10 millions of more jobs will be more open for the normal Filipinos. Therefore, in the next 10 years, we may experience this slight impact, but therefore it will be stretched once again for the opportunities, for the infrastructures, and the jobs that will be given to the jobless Filipinos. Therefore, the unemployment rate may also decrease in the next years because of train law.
Okay, so we are also aware that aside from the decrease of income taxes, there is also an increase in the taxes for goods and other commodities, right?
Yes.
So what about those families who are unemployed and find it hard to have access to these goods or who find it hard to afford these goods, who have high taxes.
Right, as I said before, train law is meant to solve these problems. Therefore, it may impact. It will give an impact for a little while, but then in the next few years, these unemployed families will experience jobs because of the train law itself.
I don't have any further. Mr. Speaker and other members of this House, it is actually fallacious to actually say that the Build program will give jobs to the Filipinos. Because the fund from the Build program is from the Belt and Road Initiative of Chinese government. And one of the conditions of the Build and Road Initiative is that the contractors and the employees in all the projects must all be Chinese. So how can I actually say that it will give jobs to the Philippines, but it will actually undermine Filipino workers to begin with?
For the next 10 years, did you know that the Chinese promised for the next 10 years that 10 million jobs will be offered to Filipinos themselves?
Shame. Because actually, Mr. Speaker and other members of this House, one of the countries like Sri Lanka actually also participated in the Belt and Road Initiative of the Chinese. But because they cannot actually follow the conditions followed by the Chinese said that, hey, because you cannot follow our conditions, we will have the rights over your port for over 99 years. So how can you actually say that it will provide jobs for the 10 years if the Chinese government will have rights on the infrastructures in the Philippines for almost 99 years?
So it is said that you have said that the Sri Lankans weren't able to meet these conditions. Are you sure that we Filipinos won't meet the conditions?
It is actually idealistic to say that we can actually pay the debt in China to begin with, because according to that is the reason where our inflation is actually increasing. That is because the share of the debts of the Filipino is actually like 40% in our GDP, Mr. Speaker. Now, because of the high interest of the Chinese loans, Mr. Speaker, and it is actually greater than the loans that are actually that Marcos subscribed into, there is more possibility that the government in the Philippines right now will not handle these cases to begin with, because Chinese is actually oppressive in nature, and Mr. Speaker, it is actually what the international community is called that. It is called debt diplomacy trap, Mr. Speaker. I want to share, it is the same concept as what debater number 2 has said. It is said that it is called also as debt colonialism. Without paying for what we wanted, or they gave us something that must help us, but honestly, they are just giving us traps for us to be able not to go out of that certain trap and not be able to really show what is really for us.
I don't believe it is not a trap.
You are saying that it's not a trap. You are saying that they are giving us works. But honestly, giving us works is actually just for us a certain concept that will not be made or managed for all of us. Because honestly, Chinese people will still take over because they are certainly the biggest and one of the most competitive countries in the world.
Time's up.
Board of Judges, to my co-debaters, to the coaches, moderator, facilitators, good morning. Well, we all know the benefits of K-12 here in the Philippines, and one of which is to produce more globally competitive individuals. And the Bridging Program for senior high school will be a great initiative to attain or to achieve this mission. Why? Because one, it will have a great effect in producing more opportunities for the students in senior high school. Two, it will help them hone and develop their skills. And if we are going to, if this program will be, if it's done right, then it will have a great and a positive effect, not just in the education of the students here in the Philippines, but also to the whole different aspects in the welfare of our country.
Okay, so good morning. I have just one question to ask with
regards to your argumentation, you approve of K to 12 program?
Yes.
Okay. So this is more of a subjective type of question, but I want you to answer it. So is the fruit of K-12 effective? Are they employed? Are the majority of those students who finish K-12 program already employed and are prioritized by companies, by public and private companies? Yes or no?
Yes.
How do you say so?
Because K-12 offers a lot of opportunities and advantages to the students in the Philippines.
No. K-12 has, there are already one batch of K-12 graduates already here. So are they prioritized, or are the college students, or are those who finish college graduate or are college graduate are prioritized by employers around the Philippines? Are they prioritized?
Well, in some cases,
in some case, but most cases, they are prioritized because they have 4 years or more studies than those K-12 graduates. Am I correct?
Yes, but at least
Okay.
they have the initial learning and knowledge, and they have done.
But still, are they effective? With regards to your answer, you said yes. You conceded that college students are prioritized with regards to employment rate. So you assume, or you're saying that that K-12 is not effective because the college graduates are more prioritized than those of K-12 graduates. Am I correct? Yes or no?
No.
Why? You already said that they are not prioritized, that they are undermined, or they are not prioritized when it comes to employment.
Well, do you have any concrete evidences of what
No,
you're...
you already said it. You said that college students are prioritized because you said yes.
No, that's not what I meant. What I am trying to say is that these students that the senior high school students specifically has this advantage. We all know this. Philippines is one of the countries before that does not validate K-12 program, education program. And with this, we all know this because we are experiencing, we have the K-12 program, and it's not anywhere questionable. This program will help, of course, the students in their holistic development. This is the reason why Philippines is far more behind the other countries, because the other countries are already implemented K-12, and this is why the reasons why there is a great rate of unemployment in the Philippines, and the question here is about...
Okay, so you said that there are rates of unemployment before, so did it change? That's my question, did it change? Is the rate of unemployment lesser than what, like 5 or 4 years ago or 3 years ago?
Well, let's see the long term here. If there are students...
I'm asking, is it lower or higher?
What's your question?
Is the rate of unemployment lower or higher in status quo?
Well, the employment here is... The argument here is about bridging program, not more on K-12. So I believe this is more on the bridging program. This bridging program will help uplift senior high school. Because we are not questioning here the implementation of senior high school, the K-12 program here in the Philippines. We are focusing more on the bridging program, which will benefit a lot.
I'm sorry, because you implied in your speech a while ago that it is more about K-12 program because you focus mainly on K-12, on the aspect of the K-12 program. You did not state that the resolution, and you did not state the resolved part.
Time is up.
To the adjudicators, to my honorable opponents, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Okay, so before I start with my argumentation, let me first define the important terms within the argument or within the debate. Military takeover in the Bureau of Customs. Okay. I am not well versed within the issue, but I will try my best to stipulate or to present my argumentation within the topic. Okay. So, military takeover. If it is mandated by the law, if it is given by the government as an order or as an act for investigation or any form that it may be to further amplify, because there were a lot of issues with regards to the Bureau of Customs within the past year or within the past within in status quo. There have been many malicious transactions that led to the removal of the chairman of the Bureau of Customs. Henceforth, if it is mandated by the law, if it is illegal, if it is a military control, that, for example, I would like to stress that, for example, the martial law, I am not stating that martial law is good or it is beneficial, but for example, if order is needed within a system inside the government, hence the government may intervene. For example, in Article 2, Section 4, it is the duty of the government to serve the country, to serve the people of the country. Hence, if needs be that military takeover or military control within a certain bureau of the government happen or take place, then it is the right of the government, for example, to issue that. So that's all.
The speaker is now open for interpolation.
The topic is about military taking over customs. So your answer is, do you agree to that certain act?
Yes.
So do you agree to that military act? So I guess that a lot of things,
if it is mandated, again,
so yes, if it is, so you can say that this is not yet mandated by the government.
No. If, for example, the military takeover is ordered by the government, then it can be.
So if it is not yet ordered, you still agree to the fact that it will be happening to the customs.
It's qualified no, because as I've said, if it is mandated, then
no, I'm just asking you if you do agree.
I have the right to qualify my answer.
Oh, so your answer is yes. You still agree if it is not yet mandated by the government.
No, if it is mandated.
If it is mandated, then you do agree. But right now, as you said earlier, it is not yet in that.
No,
point.
I did not say that it is not mandated.
So what is the other point earlier that it is about mandate or mandatory?
If for example it is ordered by the government, then it could be.
No, I'm asking you for certain evidence. Have you had, or do you know that it is now mandated or no?
It's a qualified no.
So no. So you don't think that it will still happen if it is not yet mandated? Mandatory means it is.
Are you well versed within the context of the
I am against the fact that.
No, are you well versed, or do you know the issue?
Yes, I do know. But there's a certain thing that I was really worried about whenever you said that you agreed the military will take over. A lot of things or a lot of people are now already or part of the customs. Customs is one of the branches or part of the government, as we all know. And because of that, a lot of people are involved in this, and a lot of people are being brought down because they think that the customs or the whole thing about customs is just a lie and a mistake. People keep thinking that or jumping to conclusions that everything that customs do is a mistake. But honestly, why don't we give or think that
it is because there are evidence supporting that the Bureau of Customs have a malicious events within its
If we think that customs has done a lot of malicious things, then why not point out to other branches also? It is not just customs who's making a lot of mistakes.
I'm sorry, because it is within the context of the argumentation. That's why I am focusing on customs.
I know, as we all know. But you're like saying that the whole part or the whole concept about customs is wrong. That's why military will start to take over, because the reason is why they don't, or the military will take over, it's because the customs itself cannot manage to handle their part in the government.
Because there were incompetence, there were discrepancies within the system of customs.
Then why do you think that the government is still functioning right now if there's no such thing as discrepancies or malfunctions? Malfunctions do happen for us to learn. Malfunctions do happen for us to have this right or to have this chance to do things in a better way. But honestly, if we go back to that military taking over, I guess it's not just right because we are just not letting other part of the customs not to do their thing or not to explain for themselves, but honestly to be much more considerate of what is happening.
But still, if for example it is needed because of the reasons as stated by the government, then we cannot disagree with that because again, if it's ordered, if it is in a manifestation of the police power of the government to do so, then it shall be.
So you think that, this is what the question, or what is the point for me fighting in this situation is that I was asking you if it is already part or choice of the government. I was asking you earlier. I've said that did the government already apply or said that, oh, the military should take over the customs right now? Is it? That's what I asked you. You said no, not yet. You said earlier.
No, because your question earlier was confusing. It had two underlying meanings.
You said it was confusing, so why don't you didn't ask me for me to elaborate it more?
No, because you keep repeating the question. So let's go back to the argumentation again.
So about the military.
Yes.
So all I can say is that I can say no, and there's no other way for me to point out that that's all.
What is the assurance that the military can perform the duties of the Bureau of Customs, provided that the Bureau of Customs also controls our economy works? What is the assurance that military personnel can actually fulfill the job of the BOC?
Actually, it's very subjective that a lot of the branches of the government right now is headed by retired generals of the AFP. Or for example,
are they doing a good job?
Time's up.
Thank you.
Next week.
To the audience, good morning. So, in our country right now, we do experience things, or we are now under the government and using it as democracy, as you all know. We belong to a democratic country. And because of that, the topic is all about should federalism be part, or should it be implemented in our country? Now first, let us open what is federalism. Federalism is about having or raising independence in each region. So there will be new sectors, or there will be new states or regions in our country. And because of that, there is a region, since it will propose the word independence. Being independent, which means that that certain region or that certain state will be having their own profit or their earnings, and they will be managing it by themselves. But the government also, or the national government, will be getting some of it, but not as many as what we are or they are getting from each region. And because of that, I truly believe that it will not just give us a faster rate, but a positive thing and a positive cost for all of us. Now, why did I say that it's positive? And first of all, let us ask this question. Beneficial. And number two, do you think it will help or shift the course of our country from being poor for not being poor? Now, the question is it beneficial? Federalism is very beneficial for us since a lot of malicious acts or corruption, let us name it, corruption, is happening in our country. And because of that, it is really hard for us to pinpoint of what source of that corruption is. Corruption which means that the government itself cannot pinpoint of what exactly were those people are doing that certain corruption. Now let's go back to the certain corruption that I was talking about. If we keep saying that federalism will happen, the government will be able to point out of which region will have the lowest income, of which region is not portraying in the best way, and in which region is not progressing. And because of that, they can see that if that region is not progressing, then it will be able for them to help them. And federalism is one of the best ways to give focus in each region if it is functioning well or not. Because if they can help that, then of course everyone will rise and our country will have progress. Because in the past years, having democracy in our country doesn't really help us. Honestly, no. We didn't really experience that much of drastic change, but rather we kept bringing our country down because of that concept. So I truly believe that federalism is one of the best ways that we can do, not just for us to leave this certain mark of third world country, but to really progress into a much more better way than just staying on what we have right now. And all I can say is that in our life, it's a never-ending learning or never-ending journey of learning. So it gives us the idea that we should learn on how to be new, on how for us to change for the better. That's all.
The speaker is now open for interpolation.
Tell us the problem of the current status quo and why do we really need to shift to federalism at the very end of the day?
So one of the examples she is asking me for me to give an example of what is the reason or the vital example for us to really push federalism to happen. Federalism is something that gives us or separates each region from what it is right now. And because of that, as we all know, as I said earlier, I was really strong enough and I was really in the part of saying that corruption is what is the source of what is really happening to our country right now.
Why is there an urgency to divide the Philippines into different states? And number two, what is the assurance that corruption won't accrue in a federal government at the very end of the day?
Let me ask the first question, is it why do we need to really divide each region? So dividing each region is actually composing them or grouping them into different states when for them to belong or participate in different regions for them to portray or have progress. The second question is, what is the second question?
The second question is, what is the assurance that corruption won't accrue?
What is the assurance?
Yeah.
So a former senator supported of what is really like or federalism will happen. This is an old senator. So he said that if this will happen, we, as I said earlier, we will be able to point out and not just mark literally the name of that certain person of what is the root cause of that problem. And because of that, we are now dividing each region. We will now be having this certain graph or there's certain process if this certain region is progressing or not. If it is not progressing, it will just give us a chance to really point out for us to reach out, or the national government for reach out for the help of those.
Earlier you talked about independence of each state, right? While we accept the idea that states could be independent in the federal government, I want to ask you a question of what really is going to be the role of the national government in the process of shifting into federalism at the very end of the day. Because given the context that they're going to be independent, they're going to have their own views. For example, if they want to legalize same-sex marriage, they could do it. Or if they want to legalize marijuana, for example, what is then the role of the national government in the progressive, in the progressive things that could happen in different states?
So you are asking that because of this how can the government be able to reach out or help those things or those regions, as you said earlier, if they are experiencing certain problems or they will be deciding for what will happen in their state. So you are asking, so what is the purpose of the national government if they can stand alone? So the answer is, if they can stand alone, yes, they will do have the chance. As I said earlier, they will do have this independence. But national government will be there, as I said, and the president even said this, that we will be there to really moderate things. But honestly, the last decision will still happen to you as part of that region.
But if that's the thing, if the national government was still going to be there, isn't that much better if we don't shift to federalism and just stay to status quo where the government can intervene in what's happening in different parts of the country? Isn't that much better than diving into something that we don't really know anything about?
So you said earlier that they are just intervening. So you're saying there's no such thing as sense of what is happening to our country, right? What will happen in the country if still the government has to put their hands on or has still to really join them of what their decision might be for the region. That's right?
Okay, so much for that. Let's talk about the benefits that you presented a while ago, right? I want to ask you one thing. Will it really go to generate those benefits? Because I think that with your speech, you're really having assaultive viewpoints on how the country is going to progress in the federal state of government. You're talking about, having independence and how it's going to be the way in which all states could actually, become more progressive and more prosper at the very end of the day. But let's take a look at what happened in Sudan, for example, when we created divide because of federalism, when the whole country of Sudan was divided because federalism did not work. Don't you think that given scenario, the Philippines is still a developing country and doesn't really have much of resources, and even the Filipinos don't even know anything about federalism, that could happen too.
That is why we are talking about future plans, goals, and what will be happening if we implemented this. It is not certainly saying that it will definitely be impacted, it will be planned. It is still in the process of planning. So if we kept saying and we keep focusing on the negative side of our plans, then there's no such thing as progress.
Thank you. Your time is up. Next, we have debater number 10.
Ladies and gentlemen, as time progresses, what we don't realize is that the government, the current administration, is actually trying to militarize every outlet of government in the Philippines, right? What do I mean by that then? When we talk about military, including military lists in higher education institutions, we think that we should not include that. We should not include military lists at the very end of the day, right? Because of the problem in the status quo where President Duterte is actually trying to monopolize all outlets in the government, for example, when he doesn't really value the idea of democracy and having opposition at the very end of the day, right? Well, let's talk about what's going to happen if we include military lists in higher education institutions, right? We become more exposed to military. We become more exposed to the way the military works, instead of really focusing on the bigger burden that we should fulfill in institutions like this at the very end of the day, right? So how are we going to solve the problem at hand, Madam Chair, members of this House? Let's talk about two things, right? But let's talk about principally it's the right thing to do that we should. Let's talk about principally it's the right thing to do that we should not include military lists in higher education institutions, because of course the military list doesn't really have much of relevance in higher education institutions, and therefore we shouldn't really include military in all systems, that they don't really have anything to do with, right? And secondly is that instead of including military lists, we should again, the proposition is that we should just select more capable individuals rather than putting military lists that are not of relevance in the world of higher education institutions, for example. And in all of those reasons and more, I'm very proud to propose.
The speaker is now open for interpolation.
Good morning, Ms. Speaker. You talked about the inclusion of military lists in the higher education institutions.
Yes.
Can you define what military list is?
When we talk about military lists in its very sense, we talk about the inclusion of military principles, for example, in higher education institutions. We talk about the things that are discussed in military, for example, and all those things related to them.
I don't have any further questions.
So is that military listing the ROTC, right?
Yes.
So it is when we look at the concept in the context, war can actually spark any time because we have conflict within China and there are many conflicts within the world. Now, even though, Mr. Speaker, that war will spark, this in a sense will actually need to fight for our country, because that is actually the principle of the Constitution, right? That even though we are trained or not, we need to fight for the sovereignty of the country. Now, if they will not actually have any training in the military, what is the assurance that they can be of help that they can actually protect themselves at the very least when war sparks in the Taxco.
Take a look at this scenario. Mr. Speaker. Right? Not everyone. Let's say, for example, ROTC. If we include ROTC in higher education institutions, not everyone can actually, perform the tasks required in ROTC. Not everyone are healthy kids, by the way. Not everyone, not everyone has the right stamina to even march like so for so many times and for how long, just to prove that by marching they can protect the sovereignty of the country, just to prove that by reciting all these military principles they can and then again protect the sovereignty of the country in times where we're going to be attacked by other perpetrators, for example.
Actually, that is true, because when you are asthmatic, you are not forced to jog inside the ROTC. You're placed in more administrative situations. Anyway, my question is very simple. Why are South Korean men, when at the age of 21, forced to undergo 2 years of military service?
Well, because of the purpose that they have to protect.
It's because they have to protect themselves against North Korea, right? Do you know that war is not a quality game, but war is rather a numbers game? Yes or no?
Even if that's the case, even if war is a quality game, take a look at what happened in East, right? Like 300 people.
We only had 146,000 forces, including reserve, while Singapore, in and of itself, is already 332,000. You have like Malaysia, which is like around 800,000. Via statistics, in and of itself, even our like S-21 Tucano airplanes, we have no chance against any form of opposition. I mean, the NPA in Masbate themselves can even take over Masbate, for example. Now, prove to me that war is not a numbers game.
Well, the thing is, even if we are actually, in the verge of war, it doesn't necessarily mean that we mandate like people like this into thinking that just because you're enrolled in ROTC, for example, you can defend your country at the end of the day. Because take a look at what's happening right now, right? Even if we have students, for example, in ROTC, not every one of them are actually, using what they learn in ROTC in everyday life. Some of them are just doing that just because, right? Not every one of them are actually manifesting whatever they learned in ROTC. Not every one of them are actually patriotic at the very end of the day. And I think that's something that we should really find. That in itself is a problem to begin with, because we're forcing a mentality that just because you're manifesting like military principles, you're already capable enough, you're already qualified enough to participate in a war in which sometimes not everyone really knows, that not everyone actually knows to begin with. Yes.
Alright, so I would like to ask this. Do you believe that to attain peace, we must be prepared for war?
Yes. Well, wait. The becoming prepared in wars is really on the extreme case where, I don't get.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and to our dearest panel of judges. The topic given is about the pros and cons of a national ID system. Now, let me first have the pros of the said system. It will have, or this national ID system will provide convenience for the people, because we will not have, or the national ID system will be used or can be used in all the agencies of the government, such as the SSS, GSIS, the PhilHealth, and the likes. Now, such as or with regards to the cons, there is a possibility of a bridge of information, because a lot of data will be instilled in the social or in the said system. And to address this problem, we propose that the government must ensure the security of the said system in order for the Filipino people to benefit from the national ID system. That's all.
The speaker is now open for interpolation.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to clear your point, whether you are a pro or you are a con to national ID system.
Pro.
So, are you aware of the possibility of a leaked information, including all the secret information of the bearer of the national ID, for example.
Yes.
So, do you agree with me that it is a violation of human rights, the right to privacy?
No.
But it is a violation to the human rights and your right to privacy. Because if that example, if that information leak, then your security and privacy will be at risk too. That poses risk to your security, and that's a violation.
It will only be an intervention to the right to privacy if the person does not agree with the national or with the data that is instilled in the ID system.
But still, national ID system will be required to all. So how can you say that some will?
You said that the national ID system will be required to all. What is your basis?
National ID system will be required to all, so that they will have the efficiency of having one ID only. That's your national identity. Why wouldn't you have a national ID in case a national ID system is here?
Can you repeat your question?
Let me repeat the question. You said a while ago that for my basis, so national ID system is for the efficiency of having one ID only. So if you're a citizen of the Philippines, why wouldn't you have a national ID in case of national ID system?
So we share this information in different IDs, and this information that will be put in the national ID system are already a part of the other IDs that we have right now. So what are the So as I said earlier, one of the cons is that the breach of information, and the government must ensure its security. Now that we have the information instilled in other IDs, there will not the intervention for the right to privacy will not anymore be. There will not be an intervention for the right of privacy because the data were agreed already to be instilled because it is already a part of the other IDs that we have right now.
So what is your assurance that there will be no leakage of information?
The government, that is what we are proposing and reminding the government that in order or for the national ID system to be a reality, we must ensure that they have the proper security for
So
this
who are the persons to have access with the database of the national ID system?
The government agencies.
So there are many. So how can you ensure everyone's trust to do not leak information or get information from somebody? What is your that we have many agencies that will handle the database of the national ID system. So with that many people, what is your assurance that none of them will leak information or use this information to bad things?
Next question.
Okay, so since you don't have assurance in this agency because of there's so many people that handle the database, there's a potential threat that for information leak, and this will pose many harm in a way for the security of the private matter of the holder of the national ID. Okay, so no more further questions. Thank you.
So you are agreeing to the idea of having a national ID. So let's put this in this context. Every one of us, or some of us, has a PhilHealth card, and we know that once we lost it, it is not as easy as it seems to recover it and to have those benefits, unlike those that have that card. How much more if we have that one all-powerful card that holds all of our access and information to all of the government sites? I think it is not good because basically if you lose one card,
time's up.
Next, everyone, to the panel of judges and my fellow debaters, pleasant morning to all of you. President Duterte's biggest ambitious project in his term is the Build, Build, Build project, which envisions many infrastructural developments in his term to be built. My stand on this issue is that build, build, build is just a burden to the Filipino people. Let me present to you my points. First point is that the Build, Build, Build project signifies our participation in the Belt and Road Initiative of China. When we think about Belt and Road Initiative, China plays a major role in these projects. And with these projects, we can easily inflate our national debt because of the debts given by Chinese consortiums, the Chinese government especially. So by participating in the BRI, we position the nation of the Philippines into a risk of debt trap diplomacy, which happened to Sri Lanka and Colombo and other parts of Southern America. And when that happens, we may lose our sovereignty. We don't want to lose our country. Second point is that the Build, Build, Build mainly gets its funds aside from the pledged loans of the Chinese government, from the trade law or the tax reform system. In this tax reform, 70% are allocated to the Build, Build, Build program. And as you can see, as the start of the trade law, inflation has surged to 6.4%, and in the Bicol region was the highest. So we were the ones affected most by trade law, and by Build, Build, Build. This trade law affected us all, and mostly the marginalized sector of the country having less purchasing power. And I might say this, we have other ways to improve on. We can allocate more funds to DOH, DepEd, the ones that need the funds, the ones who really needs the funds. You know, the antidote to technological gap says to be the Build, Build, Build project. But without knowledge and skilled Filipinos, because of lack of education, we cannot really enjoy the satisfaction of these advancements. So let me rephrase the points, because number one, why I disagree with Build, Build, Build. Number one, we place ourselves in BRI, which poses threats to our sovereignty. Number two, the trade law that spike up the prices. And number three, we can allocate every
Time is up.
to other agencies.
The speaker is now open for interpolation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You said a while ago that it's better for the government to allocate funds to our respective departments. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where do you think does the government get the money for the allocated funds for these departments as of now?
We have tax systems. We have tax reform systems to get the funds needed for these institutions, for the agencies that need funds.
And do you think these tax systems or the taxes that are gotten from the people is enough to fund these departments?
Can you please repeat the question?
Do you think that the taxes that are gotten from the people are enough to fund the departments?
I believe yes.
Then why do we owe so many debts to other countries, to the point that our debt to other countries are already trillions, and we are on the verge of selling our country to pay these debts?
Because we fail to see what's the real problem here in the Philippines. We debt and we loan from other countries money, for we think that industrialization is what is best for our country. But on the contrary of that, you will see that there are still lapses, there are still deficiencies in other agencies such as DepEd, such as DOH, that still require additional funds for them to operate rightly and to serve all the people, which is a state duty to serve its country for the enjoyment of all, as given by the democracy.
And what's the basis of progress for the countries?
The basis of progress of the country is within its people, ma'am.
Is it not the industrialization that's the basis of the progress of the countries?
Industrialization acts only as catalyst, but it's within the people, the formation of the people, the deeply cultivated culture of the people that helps build a country.
Then, if there are no, for example, like what you said, buildings and infrastructures, then how can people work for the betterment of the country? And how can they develop themselves if they are not given works through infrastructures? If they have, how can they develop themselves if they have no work?
Excuse me, ma'am?
You said a while ago that that your topic is about the Build program, and that it will surely help in developing the infrastructures in our countries.
How sure are you that it will help the people?
I'm asking you actually if that's what you were pointing out a while ago.
Excuse me, can you praise what you said a while ago?
I'm asking you if what you talked about a while ago is that in this Build program, it will surely develop the infrastructures and buildings in our countries.
It has plans to develop, but until now, groundbreakings are out of schedule, late behind schedule.
How do people develop themselves?
Look at countries like Japan. Does industrialization comes first? No. It comes first from the people, the formation of the culture, the deeply cultivated formation in each people that helps the country reach their goal. Japan, by now, has many infrastructures.
So are you saying
they
that the
utilize
Filipinos
their industries very well because of their inner formation?
So are you saying that the Filipinos culture or the Philippine culture is not properly instilled or empowered in the Filipinos? That's why we are not yet progressing.
Because we do not pay attention to it. Some institutions do not
I'm
pay
asking
attention
you
to it.
if you are saying, it's a yes or no question. If you are saying that the Filipino culture or the culture of the Philippines is not properly instilled or empowered in the Filipinos.
Yes, it is not.
And what's your proof that it is not?
Because, for example, we still favor industrialization that has basis from other countries. So, and yeah. Other questions, please?
And is that... Wait, can you please repeat your answer a while ago?
I choose not to repeat it, ma'am.
Okay. So you're saying that since you have agreed with me that culture is not properly instilled and empowered to the Filipinos.
Yes, and by that you agree with me too that it needs to be.
I'm asking you actually, I'm not agreeing to what you're saying.
Could you please repeat the question?
I'm asking you if you have told me or if you have answered my question about the Philippine culture not being properly instilled and empowered in the Filipinos.
But still, that's out of the context in relation to the Build project.
Time's up.
To the educators and to my fellow debaters, the topic I have been given is free tertiary education for state universities and colleges. And what I say about this is that I completely agree that this is the best way so that the youth or the students can be more empowered and have the chance to study in the best schools we have. One argument I would like to give is that I agree with this because it will give chances to all students. It is not only the upper middle class or the lower middle class or the elites who can now afford to study in colleges, but also those who are deemed poor or as what others would say, the civilians and not the elites or the middle class people. It will also give our country a chance for more workers since after college, although there is no assurance that all of our graduates will work in our country or there will be jobs to sustain the number of workers in our country, it will still give our country a chance for more workers, granted that the students who will graduate from these state universities and colleges or local colleges will study well. Is it necessary? Yes, of course it is necessary because diminishes the discrimination of the poor students from the rich students who can afford to go to universities, private or public. Is it beneficial? Of course it is beneficial, because most of our students or most of our youth will be given the chance to study and to attain the education they want, and they can reach their full educational potential. And is it practicable? Yes, it is practicable. But what the government needs to do now is to get more funds to support this project. And although this seems like a burden to the working sector of our government, soon enough, after they work, these students who will be studying in state colleges and universities or local community colleges will replace them and will help the next generation of students to also attain the education they are worth of. That's all. Thank you.
The speaker is now open for interpolation.
Okay, so your stand about this is that you agree on the free tertiary education when it comes to college. Now, my question is, there is this scale or there is this balance between the people or between the students and between these universities. Now, if you want the students to only benefit, how about where will the universities get their funds in order to provide the needs of these tertiary students?
The universities will get the funds from the government. The government is funding these state universities and these local community colleges to sustain the needs of these tertiary students.
If you're saying that these universities will get their funds from the government, don't you think it will bounce back and it becomes another burden to the people that they, instead of paying to these universities directly, they will pay taxes and the government will give these universities these funds. And look at this one. Instead of helping the people, don't you think it becomes a burden to the people that they will be the payers of the taxes for these students?
That's the main point of free tertiary education for state universities and colleges, because not all students can afford to pay the colleges. That's why this is free.
Yes, but where will I'm asking is, if they will get this funds from the government, don't you think it will cripple the economy of the government, since there are lots and there are millions of students in colleges that we have here in the Philippines? Don't you think it will cripple the economy because it will have more funds in order to give these universities funds instead of just having funds which are given to them by the students?
No, I don't think so, because these universities are not the only basis for the economic progress of our country.
But you know that it is significant because it has an effect somehow.
Although it is significant, that's why what I said a while ago, although this might seem like a burden to the working force of our country, it is still beneficial to the students and to the workers, because if these workers retire, the students will be the ones to replace them.
And if these students become workers, it will be another burden to them. So I don't think there is this progress, because it will just be back to them after these years of graduating. What do you think?
Will you please repeat the question?
So there is this college student, for example, and she or he benefits from the workers because they pay taxes to the government, and he or she gets free education. Then afterwards, he or she becomes another worker, which will become a burden to her. So don't you think it's just it just rebounces to the people, and instead of them having this taxes paid for another benefits to the government?
Are you saying that free tertiary education for state colleges and universities or local community colleges is a cycle of burden? Is that what you're saying? That's what you're saying. But I heavily disagree with you on that, because progress is not a one-day thing or a one-second thing. Progress is slow, and we cannot always expect that a year from now, after this certain college student graduates and he or she will work to sustain the taxes needed, to sustain the funds needed for the colleges, means that it will always be just that. It will always be just a cycle of burden.
But okay, so what about these universities? We know that the government has a lot of things to fund, but what about if this government gives not enough funds to the universities, don't you think it will cripple them and it will give lower quality education instead of giving them all the rights and all the beneficiaries that they have now?
Quality is not in the schools. Quality is
But
in
you
the
know,
people.
quality is measured not just only by teaching but also by the funds that is given. No matter how good you teach, no matter how good our teachers are, if they do not have the enough funds, they will not teach well. They cannot teach well.
It is not always in the funds or in the material things that students can learn or can be a better worker in the future. We cannot always base on these things because it is not always like that.
But when it comes, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. What type of teacher do you learn more? The teacher who teaches in front or the teacher who teaches in front and also provides books to you?
It is the same thing because most of the time what book says or what teacher says and what we learn.
Book is just a materialistic approach when it comes to the so-called funds. If a university has enough funds, internal enough funds which are from the students, if the education is not free, then they will have more programs and more programs for these students in order for them to have better quality. Thank you.
Time's up.